Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and I've got a box on the table here which can mean only one thing. We've got another Amazon tech haul ahead of us. I've got 10 items today, and I think I've got something for everybody, so this should be better than the last one. Also of note, Amazon Prime Day is starting up this week, so if you are a Prime member, there's likely some deals to be had here, and that is why I don't usually put pricing in this video, because these prices on this stuff change all the time. I've got an affiliate link in the video description for everything, along with each individual item, so you can check that out. Now, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this is not a sponsored video. All of these items came in from different sources, so I'll talk about their origin as we work our way through the video here. However, nobody has reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now, starting with our first item. Now, this first item is something that you should be using responsibly, but I do think it has some utility for home security. This is a security camera disguised as a USB charger. It looks just like an old iPhone charger. And in fact, the USB port on here is functional, so you can plug something in and charge it while the little camera here does its work. There's an SD card slot on the other side here, so if somebody does get suspicious and pull it out of the wall, they've got access to the footage. This is all self-contained, so it doesn't use your Wi-Fi or network. And what it does is it records continuously to the SD card in its default mode, and once the card fills up, it deletes the oldest piece of footage and keeps going. They also have a switch back here, though, to activate a motion sensing mode so that you can have it only record when it detects motion in front of the camera. The issues here are a few. One is that the camera's field of view is not great, as you can see here. And most of us don't have wall outlets at a height that makes a lot of sense for this camera to pick up faces. So if you've got wall outlets where they typically are kind of closer to the floor, you're going to see a lot more feet and torsos than heads, because the field of view on the camera is quite narrow. Additionally, it comes with a 32 gigabyte card, but this is only good for maybe 5 or 6 hours of recording, if that. So they recommend for a full day, you need a 256 gigabyte card to get 24 hours of footage on there. But it is useful for short periods of time, short duration kind of recordings. Maybe if you got somebody cleaning the house or something, you want to keep an eye on things, you can do that. It's not all that expensive. The footage looks okay. It doesn't, though, have any kind of night vision. So once the lights go out, it doesn't see anything unless you've got some other light source illuminating things. So it is limited, but it's inexpensive and simple, but it does actually work as advertised. And the footage, surprisingly, looks a little better than I expected. And in full disclosure, the camera came in free of charge through the Amazon Vine program. Now, this next item came in free of charge from Lenovo. Yes, this is another one of these travel docks, but I can't get enough of these things because everybody looks at these travel dock problems differently. What I like about this one is that it's compact and sturdy, and it's got a nice integrated cable here with a bunch of useful ports on board. Now, this will pass power through, but only 65 watts, so it'll power anything that can take power over USB-C, but if you've got a very power-hungry laptop, it won't give it everything it needs, so you might see some battery usage when plugged in if you're really stressing it out. But in most cases, 65 watts is more than adequate. If you got a MacBook Air or some other kind of lightweight Windows laptop, this is usually enough power for that. You have 10 gigabit USB ports on here, 2 USB-A's and a USB-C. You have HDMI out that supports 4K 60. You've got a card reader here for full-size SD cards and micro SD cards, and then another 10 gigabit port over here, again in a very compact package. And if you just need the port replication, you got everything you need here, and you don't have to worry about forgetting the adapter cable to plug in. So a very nice little dock here from Lenovo. Now, if you need a docking station that's a little more robust, this Thunderbolt 5 dock from Anker might fit the bill. In full disclosure, Anker sent this to the channel free of charge. Now, this is for Thunderbolt 5 computers, at least to get the most out of it, but it will also work with any Thunderbolt USB-C equipped Mac or Thunderbolt 4 equipped Windows PCs. You just don't get the bandwidth advantages of Thunderbolt 5 unless you have a Thunderbolt 5 device to connect it to. And this is, a docking station, so you've got your USB ports here in the front. You've got two 10 gigabit ports here for USB-C. These will also pass 45 watts of power out, so if you have some phone or something you want to charge, you can plug into here and use this like a charger as well. It'll deliver a maximum of 140 watts out, so you can get a good amount of power to your laptop. This will be fine for a MacBook Pro. You've got a USB-A port here at 10 gigabits per second, audio over here, you've got your card readers on this side, and then on the back, you've got even more stuff here. So you have a video output. This will support up to 8K, and you can choose the HDMI or the display port, so you can't use both at the same time. But you've got Thunderbolt pass-through ports here as well. So you plug your computer in here, and then you've got two Thunderbolt ports here that you can connect video or other Thunderbolt devices to as a daisy chain. And then you've got your video output here as well. So you can get a lot of video output out of here. How many video displays you get will be limited by what your computer supports, but you've got a lot of options here. You could theoretically get 3 display outputs through using dongles on these 2 ports and then connecting directly here. And I also like how there's no power brick on this one. The power supply is integrated, so you just plug this one cable into the wall and you're good to go. There's nothing else hanging around. Now you'll also notice it's got 2.5 gigabit Ethernet on here. I did run into some issues with the Ethernet. It's not as fast as it should be. So on my Windows computer, I was noticing it was topping out at 2 gigabits per second downstream, but I was getting the full 2.5 on the upstream. On my Mac, it was performing much lower on the downstream, but again, getting 2.5 gigabits on the upstream. So the Ethernet here feels a little compromised to me across platforms. Maybe it's a driver issue, I'm not sure. It is running with a Realtek gaming Ethernet controller, which is what was reported in Windows. But a lot of times these things get configured on their own USB bus internally and everything gets kind of messed up a little bit, and that's definitely the case with the Ethernet. I've seen this on other docking stations similar to this one as well. And then we've got 2 USB-A ports here, both rated for 10 gigabits per second. One other little gotcha on this is that it does have a power button here on the front, and what this will do is turn on its lighting. The lighting will react to how much data is being pushed through, so it might flash or pulsate. If you don't like it, you push the button here to turn it off. But if you hold the button down longer, it turns the entire docking station on and off. So you have to do a quick push for the lighting and a longer push for power. Just be sure not to push it too long if you want to turn the light off, because you could disconnect everything. And if you got drives attached, of course, that can be an issue. But other than that, I think it's a pretty solid little docking station here, even though its Ethernet performance is a little compromised. One thing that Thunderbolt 5 bandwidth brings to the mix is that these daisy chain ports are a lot more useful. So for example, in my current situation, I have a MacBook Pro, the M1 from a few years back, that has Thunderbolt 4 on board. I have a single docking station with a couple of these Thunderbolt pass-through ports on it. And so what I do is I output 2 4K 60 displays out the 2 Thunderbolt ports, and then I've got the third Thunderbolt port powering a 10 gig Ethernet adapter that I have connected. Now that Ethernet adapter can do 10 gigabits per second downstream, no problem all day long, but on the upstream, because the upstream bandwidth is being shared with the displays, it maxes out at around 4 gigabits per second. On a Thunderbolt 5 equipped device like this one, on a Thunderbolt 5 PC, you should be able to get most of your bandwidth out of the additional Thunderbolt ports, even when you're driving a display, depending on resolution and frame rate and all of that. So Thunderbolt 5 does deliver more bandwidth, and this will certainly get you there if you want a single docking solution. And again, I like how compact it all is. Now, if you are a retro computing enthusiast like me, you know how important it is to have some serial connectors laying around, like you see here, a DB9. And what I've got here is a USB-C to serial adapter from a company called Sabren. And in full disclosure, this cable came in free of charge through the Amazon Vine program. So it's very convenient here because you can just plug your USB-C in and you're good to go. I had no issues with compatibility on this. I tried it on my Windows computer, came up just fine. On Linux, it shows up as one of your TTY devices and you're good to go. And a little bit earlier, I actually did a fun experiment where I connected my Apple IIe to a Linux host over serial. So I was able to log in to my account and then load up Gopher and browse the internet the way I used to back in 1993. So it was pretty cool to be able to get that working here through this cable. And of note, the serial interface on that Apple was made in 1981. So you can definitely get your retro computing going with this, but I'm sure a lot of you might have projects that use serial connections for other things, and of course this will work with it as well. Now, it's not hard these days to find a cheap USB DVD drive, and I've got another one here on the desk that came in free of charge through the Amazon Vine program, in full disclosure. This one is from Suideck, and this is a reader and a writer. It supports all of the writable DVD formats and of course can play movies back, and I just popped that Star Wars movie in to my Mac here, and it will soon pop up with an image of the movie, hopefully. And one of the surprises, though, on this device is what it has under this door here. So as you can see, the movie's coming up here, and it's playing back as expected. But when I open up the door, I've got a lot more ports available to me. So I've got an SD card slot here. I have two USB 2.0 ports, a USB-C port here that also runs at, unfortunately, USB 2 speeds. But look at this, it's got a SATA adapter in there, and if you've got one of these 2.5-inch SATA drives, you can pop this in, and it will mount this like any other USB drive would mount on your desktop here. So here we've got Star Wars loaded up. Let me get rid of this before we have a copyright issue, and I've got some media stored on the SSD here, and that comes up just fine and plays back. So you've got a lot of additional reading capabilities here. Again, the big issue with this is that it only runs at USB 2 speed, so you're not going to transfer things out all that quickly, but it's nice to have all of these options here for reading a variety of files, many of them from older media. And one other thing you get here on the back is an SD card slot for micro SD cards as well. So you've got two SD card slots, all the other ports you saw there. You also have the ability to power this independently. So if your computer is complaining that this is drawing too much power, you can plug in additional USB power here to power the device. Note that it does not, though, include an AC adapter in the box. But this is pretty handy, I think, and worth checking out if you need some way to get access to some older media. One other thing to note is that these thicker drives that were popular when these SATA SSDs first came out don't fit in here. It's not big enough. So I don't know if you want to Dremel off part of it. It doesn't look like there's a lot of room to do that. So unfortunately, these thicker drives won't work, but the thinner ones here, like this Kingston drive, do. Now, as many of you know, I picked up a Switch 2 recently, but I didn't get a carrying case with it. But the folks from AKNES just coincidentally sent me this the other day, free of charge and full disclosure. This is their multi-function protective set. And as its name implies, it is a protection set for your Nintendo Switch 2, starting with a carrying case. This is a pretty rigid soft shell. It holds together pretty nicely. I have transported my Switch in this already, and it seems like it's going to work well for my infrequent travels. And I was surprised, though, when I got it, because there was a lot of accessory items inside. So they've got these silicone grips that it comes with, so you can slide these on top of your Joy-Con. I found that if you're using a lot of games that make use of the D-pad, it is a little more difficult to get at the D-pad here, but for analog stick games, it's okay. What's nice, though, is it's got a nice rubberized grip here, and you get a little more of a bump for your hand, which you don't have normally. These things are usually pretty flat here, as you can see. So it adds a little bit of comfort to the mix if you want that. Just get something different, I think, if you want access to that D-pad. They also have, though, a protective component to this. So they've got this plastic case that snaps onto the back, and then they have plastic cases here for the Joy-Cons themselves. I don't think these work with the silicone grips attached. But what you also get is a plastic protector for the back of the Joy-Con, which also gives you a little bit more lip here as well. So it's a full-on protective set here for your Switch if you want to go in that direction. They have some covers here for the analog sticks to give you a better grip. The Switch 2 itself, with or without the protective features, fits nicely in here. They've got some straps that keep it from falling out if you forget to zipper it up. And then I was surprised to see they have some additional things packed in back here, two different screen protectors. So you can put on a glass screen protector to keep your Switch safe, and then if it undoubtedly gets broken, you can get another one here to replace that one. And you've got room for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 games in here as well. So you can put your game key cards or your Nintendo Switch regular games in there for transport. So not a bad little case here for the price point. You do get some extra value packed in if you wanted some additional protection, and if you've got a kid that's playing with your Switch all day long, perhaps some of these accessory items might make sense. But even standalone here, the carrying case feels pretty good, and it will be my go-to for a while. for traveling with my Switch. Now, I don't review a lot of headphones or earbuds because the majority of what is out there are in-ear designs, which are very uncomfortable for me. I can never get a good fit. I've never liked them, so I just don't review them. But every once in a while, I will come across things that are worthy of taking a look at. And Anker had sent along these in full disclosure a few weeks ago, and I thought I would check them out. I like one pair better than the other, so we'll start with the one that I like better. So these are their Aero clips, and these are kind of similar to what you'd get with a pair of AirPods. My go-tos right now are the AirPods 4, the base model ones, and I really like them. They sound great, and it's hard to find something that sounds better, but these are close. So these give you a nice little pill box here for storing them. And they've got this kind of unique design. They're a little different than what you typically see out there. And what you do with these, and I think this is the left one here, I will do my best to demonstrate, is you basically just get the first part in and then just clip it to your earlobe like this. So they kind of sit like this. And believe it or not, the sound quality out of these is pretty good. You can kind of get it dialed in to where it feels best, and then you're good to go. It sounds close to the AirPods. It doesn't have as deep of a bass as the AirPod 4s do. It doesn't have the noise cancellation of the AirPod 4s that I have, but it sounds pretty close. I was surprised that it did sound as good as it did. And you have the ability to control things by just tapping on the side here. So a double tap will start and stop your music. You can also take calls on these as well. The microphone isn't great on these. It's passable for phone calls, but it only runs at 16 kilohertz, so it's not going to be good for taking audio recordings or anything. But for basic headphones, pretty nice here. And if you're not into in-ear earbuds like me, these are a good alternative, I think. They sound pretty good. These charge over USB-C. You don't have any wireless charging options on them. There's no power adapter in the box, but you do get the power cable. They have a few little grips that you can attach to them if they don't fit your ear great, so you do have some fitting alternatives if you need them. They're pretty slim feeling silicone here, so I don't know if these will last very long, but if it doesn't get you a good fit out of the box, you can try these and see if it does a little better. But from a basic headphone standpoint, they're better than cheap. So they sounded good enough for me to say they're a decent AirPod alternative. Now, the other ones, which I wasn't as crazy about, are these called the Aero Fit 2, primarily because I had a hard time getting them to fit in my ears properly. Now, these will actually support, they say, high-res audio, so I'm assuming that's a lossless format, although my Mac and my iPhones don't support that. But if you do have an Android device that supports high-res audio, this apparently will get you there. And it does have a much larger pill box, as you can see here. But the larger size here does allow for wireless charging if you want to go that route. But when I open it up, you can see the headphones inside. And I will once again demo with the left one. And I had a really hard time with these getting a good fit, because what you have to do is kind of get it into position and then put this over your ear and then kind of adjust it by twisting it. The problem, though, is that when you're putting them on, I keep activating things because of how they work. But it goes in like so, as you can see, once my camera focuses. So it's okay. They don't sound as good as these other ones do because I can't get the audio portion into the right spot for my ear canal. It's just not fitting well for me. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of other fit options with this one. So they probably would sound better if I had a better fit. But for me, I had a hard time getting that fit, given how big they are, as you can see here. So these, I would say, are probably more of a risky endeavor if you're looking to purchase one of these things. These, for me at least, worked a lot better. So that's what I got in. And again, of the two, I do prefer the Soundcore clips. Now, as many of you know, I go to CES every year and do some wall-to-wall coverage of what I encounter there. And I do a lot of that work now solo with a little handheld rig, and I'm always looking for ways to make that workflow more efficient. And one of the things that I love about my iPhone is that it's got that Magsafe connection built in, and I've been on the lookout for some Magsafe rigging that I could play around with. So I bought this the other day with my own funds. This one is a V-Rig, and what it is a Magsafe mount that you can mount on a cold shoe or hot shoe, but also mount to a tripod because you have a tripod connector there. And what you do here is just kind of fold it out and attach your phone. And your phone, of course, stays steady on that. You do have to get it aligned properly. And my app that I use, Final Cut Camera, actually does have a leveler built in so I can get it into the right position. And then you still have room on top here for a light or your microphone kit or whatever else you want to attach on. So that works pretty nicely. And then, of course, you can actually turn the entire rig here and get things positioned the way you want them to be positioned. And one of the neat things about this is that it's not limited to just attaching to a phone. So for example, the other day we reviewed the SanDisk drive, and this will attach magnetically to it as well. So you can actually put your accessories on here instead if you wanted to go that route. I found the magnet connection isn't as strong for these accessory items as it is for my phone, but it does get the job done, and I can attach my storage to this or have the phone attached or whatever. So that's going to be a pretty handy addition to my workflow. Now, if you have a non-Magsafe device that you're trying to attach, they do give you a magnetic ring in the box. And of course, you can buy more of these if you need to make everything mountable. So pretty handy here from Vrig. Now, if you got a multi-gig network at your house, like many more people are getting these days, you need more bandwidth to your devices. And this inexpensive adapter from Wavlink will get you 5 gigabits per second over a USB 3.2 connection. And in full disclosure, they sent this in free of charge. I had no compatibility issues with this one. It worked fine on my Mac. It worked great on Windows, as you can see here, without any drivers necessary. And the speeds that we got out of it were where I expected them to be for a 5 gigabit adapter. So it's really nice to see now much smaller, compact, and higher speed devices that go beyond 2.5. There's the upstream for you as well. And it's all pretty portable here and very similar to what you might have seen with a 1 gigabit adapter just a couple of years ago. Now, if you have an iPad Air 10.9 or an iPad Pro 11 and are looking for a more affordable keyboard trackpad combo, this one might do it for you. This is from Belkin. They call this their everyday keyboard case. And what you get is a plastic protector for the back of your iPad. And then when you attach it here, it magnetically locks in, and you've got a kickstand here in the back on the keyboard portion to get everything positioned into the right spot. And of course, you can keep it all together and fold it up when you want to go out and about. It does add a little bit of weight to your iPad. It's definitely feeling a little heavier than it did before I put all this stuff on here. So probably about a pound or so maybe in extra weight. But it does get you the lower cost option for adding a keyboard to the mix. Now, the keyboard is Bluetooth, which means that you have to pair it up with your Bluetooth settings, and you also have to charge it independently of your iPad. So the more expensive ones connect up to a special connector on the iPad. This is wireless and will need to be charged through the USB-C port there you see on the side. However, I found it to be a pretty good device overall. The responsiveness of the trackpad feels good. You get all of your mouse controls. The gestures work here as well, so your pinch to zoom is working. It's got a decent little click to it, so it feels good. It doesn't feel as good as the more expensive options, but it's not a bad alternative, and all of your iOS gestures here work as expected. The keys are a little smaller than I would like, but they've got them nicely spaced, so it isn't too much to get used to it. You got a full slate of keys here that are all the same size, just not as big as I would like them, but you are constrained a little bit given the size of the iPad that's connected up with it. It's also backlit, so when you're in the dark, you can actually see the keys, and of course you can turn the backlight off if you want to save batteries. It's got a nice fuzzy feel here to the keyboard deck, and then of course you can fold everything up here. I'll give the other view when you want to go out and about. So you got a lot of range on the hinge here. It feels nice and solid, and it's a pretty decent case for your iPad as well. So that'll do it for another Amazon haul. I think we had a good diverse range of gadgets this time. Let me know what you thought in the comment section. And you may not know this, but I do produce content for Amazon from time to time. They have a whole creator program over there. So my Amazon link is in the video description, so you can follow me there. Occasionally I do exclusive live streams to Amazon, sometimes behind the scenes as I'm shooting a video. So it's always fun to pop in and see what I'm doing over there as well. If you do already, follow me on YouTube. And usually on Prime Day week, I do a live stream or two over the course of that sale event. I've got some stuff coming in that should be on sale during the week, and I'll demo it so you can see if it's something that'll work for you. So let me know what you thought again down in the comment section. And until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.